My name is Daryl Prince. I'm going to tell you the truth, and I've been putting off this conversation for a long time because I don't know. I like to be quiet about things, but I want to bring truth and justice to America. I would like to see us tackle our biggest problems and get America back to build, baby, build. I see a future for America. I see an America with so many possibilities, but also needing something new, something that the people feel, something that everybody feels. We need a change in some of how we do things, and we do need to fight a little harder and get things pushed through and done, because most of the problems that we have in this society, especially for what America has, are kind of silly. But we also have to take note of what a lot of what America has. I mean, historically low crime rates, um, and you know, a chicken in every pot is kind of expected and demanded here, and it's kind of true. Um, that at least we can do as a great nation, and Rome did the same. I mean, but right now we have the need to build. I mean, other countries are far surpassing us in terms of their technological implementation, trains running faster, and part of it is that we wanted to keep selling oil and gas, and I got no problem with oil and gas. Like, uh, families that work there, and I think oil is very useful. I don't think we should burn all of it though. It's great for production, um, and going into space, and I don't want to burn all of it into the atmosphere. And I'm a chemist, bro. Like, my parents met in a chem lab. Like, I when I talk about these kinds of things, and people should respect science, because science, when people get down to it, I mean, we're talking instantaneously across uh, whatever thousands of miles. Science knows a few things. So, do we know if carbon dioxide is insulation? There's only 2 points to it for you not to believe that global warming is a real. Are we putting? Does carbon dioxide form insulation with the earth, and we put lots in? Carbon dioxide is insulation with the earth. We knew that in 1860. Two, um, it's called the greenhouse effect. Because it came from our understandings of it came from back in those days when they had greenhouses because they didn't have electric heaters. We've known about this stuff for a long time. The first book on global warming was written in 1896 by a Nobel Prize winner, whose work is still used today. And the original theory comes from a guy whose work is still used in pretty much every part of the chemical industry, including the oil and gas. And the confirmation data was from ExxonMobil. So argue with that. Argue with ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil said climate change is real and collected the data. So, you know, so you don't mess with warming up the earth, and we don't want to lose the poles. We got to make sure that we take care of this, and we may have to do some constructive sort of rebuilding of the poles or whatever. I'm saying this as it seems kind of silly, but uh, it's true. Um, there's a lot going on. President Carter just passed, and he was a great man, and he's one of the reasons why this, you know, political divide and discourse and tribes of Americans, like the people who farm and work and in building stuff, and against people who work in information technology and sciences and stuff, about basic facts. There are basic facts, and we have to get down to them, and we have to get down to the law as well. There's basic rules. There's the Constitution, and part of the problem is neither Republican nor Democrat really understands the Constitution in this country, or most people in this country don't, because they would demand something different if they really did, and we need to make that. It's citizens doing this. So all of these things that aren't being taken care of are part of a citizen's responsibility, because in the United States of America, the citizens are the government. They're a smaller part of the government, but they have many, many, many ways of doing things. And when things are way out of whack, as they are indeed, even though some people are trying to do the best they can, and other people are just, the system's been too short-sighted for too long. But President Carter was, to his dying day, he was still going out to Habitat for Humanity things, building. He was a nuclear physicist. I mean, he was a working man. He was in the Navy. Like, for the Republican Party and to be dissing that guy and consider it was just politics, and saying that he was the worst ever and terrible and just always tearing down every person because they're a Democrat, regardless of their ideas, is a unchristian a thing as I can possibly imagine, as unpatriotic, as un-American a thing as there can be. And my family, I had conservatives in my family, but I got into arguments that caused rifts in the family, and so it personally hurts me. But I mean, it's over facts and things that we're just, it's not business or country over facts, like facts and, the law. That's the contract that binds us all. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not perfect. And there's a lot more that we can do, but we have to understand what it is before we can start putting down things new in like a constitutional convention. But we have to talk still about more things. President Biden just retired, and he did a lot of great things. More infrastructure, and got a lot implemented, and a lot of rule changes that were beneficial. There are some other things that, in terms of figuring out all of what happened with COVID and like getting a good postmortem on that stuff in terms of, and then even how the Trump administration had dealt with that. We have to have nonpartisan conversations just on facts, because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And the whole idea of America is that we settle things with talk rather than with violence. And that's one of the major ideas of America. And, if we represent people from each different place, and we need our representatives representing states and not political parties. I know there are interests, and I know that there's hierarchies in those things, but some semblance of the law has to be, upheld to. There's reasons why those things are those ways. And what's been breaking my heart is the continued bombing in Israel, paid for by U.S. taxpayer dollars, of people in tents. They're calling them terrorists. I mean, I don't like what happened on October the 7th. I don't know how it happened, because with what Israel has in terms of security, it's just a huge, enormous security failure. But the violence that's there is because there's 10 million people in Israel, 5 million people who are in Gaza, and there's 5 million people who can't vote, and there's 5 million people who can vote, and the 5 million people who can vote just got there. Most of them, like more than half of them, and the other half have lived there for hundreds or perhaps thousands of years. If we went back, the other 5 million who can't vote, they have none of the rights of, and some of them in Gaza are surrounded completely by a fence, a wall. And I guarantee you, if you asked anybody in MAGA or anybody who's a Second Amendment, what would you do if Joe Biden came and put a wall around your town and told you if you left, you can never come back to your hometown? I can tell you what they'd do. And they'd be called probably Hamas. You can't bomb your way to peace. I mean, I don't like Hamas's destructive tendencies. But I don't know how. But living in a place where you have no control, you can't do business, and if you leave, they will never let you come back. It's not freedom, and that's not peace. That's just ongoing, prisoners of war or whatever. and America and Americans should have no part of that, and the Jewish people should have no part of that. I mean, Einstein said of the previous party that they changed their name. The guy came over, but of Likud and those guys who presently run Israel, that they were terrorists and that the undoing of the Jewish people would come from them. That's Albert Einstein. That's not me. And Isaac Asimov, another great Jew, he's like, I've never gone abroad, and I don't travel much. But if I did, I wouldn't go to Israel because the Muslims will not forgive and not forget, and I don't think it's right to go over there and take, this stuff from the people who are living there. I mean, find a way to live in peace, honor thy neighbor. That's what Judaism is supposed to be about, and it's the commandment of God in that religion. So and getting everybody involved in war, and it's not good, man. And everybody has to be in the military. Like, what? Find a good way to live where the place where you are. I mean, do you have to have a relentless push to go? I don't understand how that helps, the issues at home. And I don't know how your neighbors are going to love you if you keep, trying to take them over. So, I mean, and the fact of the matter is that the government there wouldn't win a re-election right now, and they've been putting off the hostages because they were going to lose political power. It crushes me to know I've not done more. But yeah, there's no need to use to any more bombing campaigns. You need to have a political solution, and you need to figure out what to do with those folks because they don't have food, and they have to have some place to stay. Like, they blew up most. I don't know. Like, there's some buildings still standing, but I don't know that they're operable for what we come to expect for people to live, running water and toilets and things like that. Um, and they broke it. I mean, it's inside their own country. Like, I mean, they drew Gaza into their country, so they blew up buildings in their own country, I guess, to rebuild them. But where does that money come from? America? What's going on? And I also wanted to real quick, since this is already too long.